Welcome to the Films Fatal to the Flesh bonus show. I'm Daniel.
I'm Gilbert.
And we're here to bring you a casual look into what we think about the show once we're done with the show. Anyway, let's get into it. So what we're going to attempt to do is go over the 2 episodes within the month that we have recorded and kind of do a review, kind of go over maybe some things that we missed or something that we got wrong, or, you know, just kind of go over the various things that we might want to add to.
Yeah, and it's going to be completely unstructured, so...
Yeah, this is very casual. We're just sitting here, we're drinking a beer. We just had our sacramental, what we call a mint, which is a tobacco cigarette that we had before the beginning of the show.
Yeah, man, puts your mind into the mode of being.
Yeah, we're drinking Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, 9%, which is pretty good.
So we had some sacrament, having some voodoo.
Yes. So we're just going to get into kind of what we covered over the month. And eventually this will be for patron supporters and that type of thing. This is kind of our bonus content that we can give to people that contribute to the show. But for now, we're going to keep it free, just till we get the ball rolling. But yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Well, and we had a week off because
2 weeks off.
Yeah, pretty much 2 weeks off.
Yeah,
because you had a show. So why don't you let all the listeners know the band or the group? So
I'm in a hip hop group called Faceless. Faceless 575, of course, not the group The Faceless, which we have quite a bit of a problem with, with the whole name thing. But I mean, we started out probably exactly the same time that band did. So I mean, 2 different genres, you know.
Happens all the time, man.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. But yeah, I went to Amarillo. Amarillo, Texas is just the most tremendous crowd that we've ever played for. It was an insane show. They were very, everyone was very supportive. A lot of love.
Anyway, how long did you guys play for?
Just that night.
Like an hour, 2 hours?
Yeah, it was like an hour.
That's pretty good.
So it was cool. Yeah, I got a lot of video footage and pictures and just different things. Sold out our merch, made some money.
That's always nice.
So that was dope. So I guess we'll get into a little bit of witch stuff, witchery. So first, let's revisit the scene in which Samuel is snatched from his cradle, so to speak. So what I wanted to take a look at is, okay, so we have the idea that the Little Red Riding Hood aspect of the thing. So it's like the witch is in a Scarlet Riding Hood. They actually refer to it as a riding hood. Also, we learned that Caleb actually was shown the tracks where a wolf had taken off Samuel. So what we have here is we sort of have this sort of duality. So the witch is sort of the Little Red Riding Hood character as well as a werewolf. And sort of there's that sort of transfiguration kind of thing going on. So I think this sort of plays on the duality of sort of Thomasin. Is she the witch? If she is a witch, she's a fucking werewolf too. And she could have been the one that carried off Sam into the woods and is the witch that we see running through the woods. So there's that sort of play.
So you mean the actual witch that we see in the red hood, the one that eventually meets Caleb?
Yeah, I mean, you could actually say, that could be Thomasin. Because they're accusing her of being the one that lost Samuel. But I think she could actually be the one that carried off Samuel, too.
I see.
And thus, both the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood, it's sort of that duality of things.
So when we're taking a look at this scene, she's playing peekaboo with Samuel, and then when on the 3rd time that she reveals herself, Samuel is gone, but she's still there. So if this idea that she may be the witch, how do you think that plays then? Because she was unknowing that it happened. She was startled that it happened. Didn't look like she had anything to do with it. Do you think it might have been some sort of like unconscious state? Like maybe she blacked out? So like in werewolf films, right? When the person becomes a werewolf, they're completely unknowledgeable of it. They wake up the next day, they have no idea what they did, why they're naked, why they have blood on themselves. So you think it might have been something like that?
Yeah, and it's sort of that play on the sort of trans-dimensional, it transcends sort of time and space, kind of like, fuck, man, I'm getting lost here. Shit. So we actually see in a later scene, when Thomason awakes in the forest, and Fowler's dead, and he's dismembered.
We haven't even gotten there yet.
I know. We talk about shit that we haven't got to all the time.
All right.
But all I'm saying is that, this relates to that. So, like, okay. She awakens in the woods, and she doesn't know what's going on. Or she does. Or she doesn't. It's unconscious. Like, she was the person that probably killed Fowler. And it's the same thing, too. Like, she could be unconscious of that she was the one that did this.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And it also plays on that, where is she in the story? Is she not the witch? Could she be the witch and not know it? Or is she definitely the witch and is fully conscious of it? And that's something that they play with throughout the film.
I really think that she's the witch and she doesn't know it. I think that she is running through this unconscious the whole time. Well, she's running through this duality, like you say, of conscious action and unconscious action. And of course, the conscious action is when we see Thomason more of the Puritan type. And the unconscious is when we see her manifest as the witch. Subtle things, like the creek scene when she gets really wicked, and stuff like that. And so I think that in those unconscious moments, she's not necessarily knowledgeable of what she's doing. Because we see at the creek scene, when she's scaring Mercy, she almost snaps out of it in this way where she didn't quite realize what she was doing. She kind of snaps too and is like, oh shit,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Another scene too is the scene where Thomason's carrying back water to the farm. And we kind of went on the more abstract explanations of those things, but it's sort of like, you could look at it from a more basic thing as like she's sort of falling down. So she's sort of like, she's in this state where she doesn't know if she's on the right path, if she's like following the word of God and she's doing her duty.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like she's like falling down on her duties. So like she's spilling water. She's falling into the ravine. So like I think that was sort of something that was a little bit overlooked in that scene. You can actually see the worry on her face. Like that, oh shit, like something bad is happening or something's taking place.
Well, in the Gnostic scriptures, in the book of Thomas, there is a parable by Christ where he says something to the effect of, there was a woman and she was carrying a bowl of meal, and along the way she dropped the bowl and spilled out all the meal, and when she got home she realized that the bowl was empty. She hadn't realized that she spilled all the meal. So from a psychological perspective, it seems as though it's speaking to the idea that as we walk through the world in our daily lives, a lot of times we spill out the essence of being that's within us. We're not aiming at the target properly. We're sinning, so to speak. We're not orienting ourselves the way that we should. And when we do that, we're spilling the meal. In this talk that Jesus is giving, the meal represents the spirit, basically. So this woman broke herself, let out her spirit, and then realized her spirit was lost. And so I think that there are many people, and I mean, I'm even guilty of it myself from time to time. You know, I let things go like I shouldn't. You know, I don't do things that I know that I should do, or I do things that I know that I shouldn't do. And I think that that's what that parable is trying to tell us, that we need to be conscious constantly about our actions, because every small action has the ability to change the world. And so what you're talking about, yeah, I think that Thomasin realizes that she's not living with herself the way that she knows she should be living.
Yeah, and it's this idea of being whole. It's sort of like she's conscious that she's spilling. She's struggling with the idea that she's spilling the water. She can't really help it, or as far as like, you know, as far as her spirit will allow her to. So yeah, it's this whole idea of being, and I actually stand by my whole, I know it was a little bit dismissed, but it was like this whole baptized by your own iniquities, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like she's losing part of herself.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And that's what the water represents. It's a purifying essence. You know, it has the ability to bring those who interact with it properly into a newer state of being, which is why, yeah, baptism is such an important thing, you know, but it's looked at superficially within the Bible. But, you know, when you dive into the mythology and the esoteric aspect of Christianity, the baptism is way more important than what the Christians led onto it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, with each drop that spills, she's losing a little bit of herself, and she's conscious of it, and she's worried about it, and you can see that on her face.
Yeah, and she's also, in a way, disrespecting the Great Mother, right? She's letting the water spill. It's really deep.
Yeah, and another thing, I don't know if it's directly following the scene, but there's this shot that's from the back of Thomasin's head, and it's sort of this point of view from the back of Thomasin's head. And I kind of wonder, like, what that kind of means, and I wonder if you had any insight into possibly what that could mean.
This is that same scene?
So it's sort of like she's looking towards the woods. And there's another scene, too, where she's actually sitting down, facing the woods, looking into it. You know what I mean? Sort of mesmerized or hypnotized by it. So it's sort of like either she's looking out and seeing, like, oh, there's this witch in the woods, or there's this unknown danger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's two different shots like that. So there's like she's sitting down, facing the woods. The next is the camera shot from the back of her head, you know, pointing into the woods.
Yeah. So it's possible, like you're saying, it could just be the regular. I mean, not looking any deeper superficially. She's just looking into the woods, like, you know, my little brother is out there somewhere. There's this danger out there. Why are we here? Why are we in this wilderness? Almost like life, right?
Right.
Why are we here? Why are we in this wilderness? What are we doing here? But then, yeah, it could be a little bit deeper. So she could be meditating, right? So if she is in this unconscious state where she's kind of interacting with that spirit of the witch, she could be in this meditative state. Or it could also be some sort of almost like a calling, right? So the woods, which represents the mother, the terrible mother, which the witch is a physical manifestation of, may be drawing her in.
Yeah, it's calling her.
Right.
And she's sort of like receiving that communication from the woods.
Yeah, because I mean, I think that could happen to any of us. You know, I mean, you go on a hike, and if you just sit in silence and meditate on where you're at, what you're seeing, you have the ability to go somewhere else.
And you never really get that sort of feeling outside of the woods. There's some sort of magical kind of effect that the woods has on your consciousness, because it's like, and I get it, and it's sort of like that shot from behind your head. It's sort of like you become one with that sort of wood. Like you become, it's sort of like an extension of your consciousness. Yeah. Because you when you're in the woods, there's no other sounds, but there's a ton of sounds, and they're coming from the woods.
Right.
And that's all that you feel and hear and smell and see, and it's very tactile, and it's like, and, you know, my family is very, like, they love camping. Like, that's my family's like biggest thing is like camping, the woods, and all that shit. So like, spent a ton of time out in the woods, and and that was always something like my dad was like, turn off the radio, like roll down the windows,
right?
Take in the wood. Don't be like look, playing Game Boy or some shit.
Right.
Look out at the woods. And when I was a kid, I was like dismissive. I was like, that's fucking, it's a little boring, whatever. As a kid, as I got older, I like appreciated it more. But,
yeah, as a kid,
I had to be told, roll down the windows, look out, look for deer, look for bears, look for wildlife. And it's like this beautiful connection. It's like the fucking whole woods is like you're sharing your consciousness with that energy.
I think so. It's spectacular, because you go out there and like you said, there is no sound, but tons of sounds. And I think what you're getting at is that the sounds that you don't hear are the sounds that we're used to and somewhat comfortable with, traffic, the hum of a heater or an air conditioner or, a TV, whatever it is. And then the sounds that you do hear, you're completely unfamiliar with. I mean, we all know what birds sound like, but when you really stop and think about where you're at and what you're doing and that there's a danger to it, right? Because there's all these animals that you hear and they're perfectly comfortable at home and they will survive for years. But if you were out there stranded all by yourself, could you live?
Right.
And there's that weird sound, well, not weird, but that beautiful sound that I like when I'm in the woods, where it almost sounds like running water, but it's just like the wind
exactly.
running through
That's
the trees.
Funny. That's exactly what I was thinking of whenever you were saying that.
Yeah, and it's almost like, well, where's the water at? But, then you realize that it's that hum, and it's almost startling to see another human. So you're just walking down some path or you're walking off a path and you see somebody and it's almost this weird thing of like you don't know how to interact with them,
Yeah, exactly.
And then when you do, there's like this solidarity, you both are here for the same reasons and your understanding of this shared consciousness that you're talking about. And there's also this, not everybody believes in this, but there's that feeling of taking care of that nature, right? So, you see a Sonic cup on the floor and you want to you pick it up, you put it in your pocket and you wait until you get to a point where you can throw it away,
Yeah, exactly. In nature, you want to, it gives you this duty, like you want to preserve it.
And where we live is mainly, it's mainly desert. I mean, you can find some forests, you can find some woods. But when you go up to the mountains, it's the same kind of feeling, but a different feeling because these mountains are quite ominous. They're huge. And they have this dizzying effect when you just look up and focus on them because they're just so big and your mind has a hard time, understanding them, So you get this real shaky, nauseous, dizzy feeling. At least I do.
Yeah.
Until you focus on it and then that goes away.
Yeah, and if you're one of these city people that are like, the woods, who would want to go out and with all the bugs and all this stuff? But it's really... I would encourage anybody to go out into the woods because it's a very spiritual, cleansing feeling. It's a very it's sort of a consciousness bath. You know what I mean?
It's a reset.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a reset.
Yeah, you go out there, and that's the thing. You're overwhelmed all the time with technology and screens and lights and harsh reality, I guess. And then when you go out into any kind of nature and you just walk around, there's none of that. All you can focus on is the things that you're made of, and you get a chance to get inside your mind and think and kind of you get to know yourself. And if you go with people, it's also cool then because you can have some really awesome conversations. You can really get into some deep discussions that you don't normally have time for, or you're distracted or whatever.
Yeah, it's so cool too, and also just the simple idea of like building a fire, and gathering around it. I mean, it's so primal. It's so
building a fire
so perfect. And again, you can see, like out there, there's no light pollution. There's nothing. It's just dark. It's just you can see the entire universe from there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay, so we're getting a little close to running out of time. So I kind of wanted to go over the Black Phillip song real quick, and I just kind of wanted to float a couple ideas. So So on the whole Nanny Queen is Wed portion of the song, I was kind of thinking like if we could look at it as a more innocent kind of like just children's song, or like that Jonas and Mercy came up with it, they could actually just be poking fun at Thomason, saying to Nanny Queen is Wed, like you're married to a goat, you know what I mean? They're just kind of like making fun of her, you know, that type of thing. Also too, I would like to add, like, when Thomason is in the barn, like I guess she's sweeping up, whatever, and she's hearing the kids talk about the song. Like, she actually stops for a moment and is like, holy shit. Like, either these kids are on... It could either be taken like, oh, these little bastard kids like making fun of me, or it could be like, holy shit, they're on to me. You know what I mean? Like, they could know that I am the witch. Or they are the witch. They are witches. You know what I mean?
And then it's also a spooky song, you know? I mean, they're singing this really eerie folks nursery rhyme to this goat, you know? And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the Puritans had access to, but Black Phillip is quite ominous looking, you know? So just, I don't know. I would think that Black Phillip would be something that they'd be spooked by. And then to have these two little kids that have a song written about this goat is pretty scary.
Right. And so, like, that could take place in any one of the dimensions. So it's like Thomason's either not the witch, she's trying not to be the witch, or she's, like, definitely the witch.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's ambiguous. Like, I don't think there's actually a real meaning, like a definitive answer to that question. So, yeah. Did you have anything to add, or did you want to add anything?
No.
So yeah, we'll keep doing these monthly reviews. Just go over a couple of things that we either got incorrect or we wanted to add on to.
And the same goes for you. I mean, if you guys hear something that you think is incorrect, or you have an interesting point or something to add, just send us an email. Yeah,
definitely email us, because I mean that could definitely add to the bonus show. We could answer your questions if you had some. And we're definitely not beyond reproach. If we're incorrect about something, we'll definitely reconcile that. Just like I said,
unless we're not wrong.
What did I say? Like a toll? Like that didn't even make sense. What I meant was atone for, or whatever, you know. But I just said it. I didn't get, and like, you know, I could have taken that part out, but I just decided to leave it in.
We all knew what you meant.
Yeah. Anyway, so hopefully you guys will, you know, subscribe, download, rate, and review on iTunes. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter,
SoundCloud,
Facebook.
all that stuff.
Get at us. YouTube, all that shit. So, anyway.
All hail the flesh cult.
Yes, and stay fatal, folks. Peace!